In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. And that is last night the NFL returned, and what took place was the players met at midfield with their arms locked in a unity gesture. Fans who were in the stands booed. The Houston Texans were not there for the national anthem, as well as playing Lift Every Voice and Sing. The Miami Dolphins, though, made it perfectly clear how they feel about the NFL putting in racism on the sidelines and things along those lines. They say, enough of all this little drama. We want actual action. Folks, watch this video.
Is it authentic? That's the mystery.
Or is it just another symbolic victory?
Now there's two anthems. Do we kneel? Do we stand?
If we could just right our wrongs, we wouldn't need two songs.
We don't need another publicity parade.
So we'll just stay inside.
Until it's time to play the game.
Whatever happened to the funds that were promised? All of a sudden, we got a collapsed pocket?
The bottom line should not be the net profit.
You can't open your heart when it's controlled by your wallet.
Decals and patches.
Fireworks and trumpets?
We're not puppets.
Don't publicize false budgets.
Ask the pundits, and we shouldn't have a say.
If you speak up for change, then I'll shut up and play.
If we remain silent, that would just be selfish.
Since they don't have a voice, we're speaking up for the helpless.
It's not enough to act like you care for the troops.
Millions for pregame patriotism. You get paid to salute.
Lift every voice and sing.
It's just a way to save face.
Lose the mask and stop hiding the real game face.
So if my dad was a soldier, but the cops killed my brother, do I stand for one anthem and then kneel for the other?
This attempt to unify only creates more divide.
So we'll skip this song and dance.
And as a team, we'll stay inside.
We need changed hearts, not just a response to pressure.
Enough. No more fluff and empty gestures.
We need owners with influence and pockets bigger than ours.
To call up officials
and flex political power.
When education is not determined by where we reside.
And we have the means to purchase what the doctor prescribed.
And you fight for prison reform and innocent lives.
And you repair the communities that were tossed to the side.
And you admit you gained from it and you swallowed your pride.
And when greed is not the compass, but love is the guide.
And when the courts don't punish skin color, but punish the crime.
Until then, we'll just skip the long production and stay inside.
For centuries, we've been trying to make you aware.
Either you're in denial or just simply don't really care.
It's not a black-white thing.
Or a left-right thing.
Let's clean the whole bird.
And stop arguing about which wing.
Before the media starts wondering and guessing, they just answered all your questions. We'll just stay inside.
Derek, the players were real clear in that video.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what they said, Roland, because I look at what's going on in the NBA right now with the Black Lives Matter on the floor and all the different signs that the coaches are wearing. And do these coaches really feel that? You know what I'm saying? And what is that really going to do? I don't think any more awareness needs to be brought to what the hell's going on, because the country's burning. Cities are still burning. So I hear them on that right there. But then, Roland, I go back when Colin Kaepernick first started kneeling, and you were on TV One. And we were starting talking about, Derek, can you get some stuff back to the White House? And I look at those guys because it sounded good. It was rhyming and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what kind of legislation is going to come out of all of this protest, all these cities burning, all these people being hurt and all that kind of stuff? What legislation, what type of reform is going to come of it? Because if that doesn't happen, all of this is for nothing. And so that's the question. Come up with the plan. What is it you want? And let's take it to these elected officials. And it just can't be the Congressional Black Caucus.
But they are. But the things you're talking about, they are. Players are doing this in individual cities. The part of the problem that people have to understand here is that this is not just a federal issue. Laws have to be changed on the state level and the local level as well. But what the Dolphins are saying here, Joseph, They are saying to the owners, who are mostly Republican, hey, step the hell up. They literally, in that video, they said it. Your pockets are deeper than ours. Where are you on this?
Use the power of the purse. And it is all empty gesture. And I have to agree with Derek on that point, that the NBA has made a stand. It has made it acceptable now to do what Colin Kaepernick did 4 years ago, who, I might add, still does not have a job in the NFL. Okay, so that's reason number one why I believe that the players were very sincere, and I believe they outlined a significant agenda here in a way they have not. Number two, staying inside en masse gives mass attention and saying, listen, we're not falling for the okie doke here. We know that you guys can do more than you're doing right now. You are hoping that we'll accept these empty slogans and these empty gestures when what we want from you is to use that mighty pocketbook. I mean, Jerry Jones has a net worth more than many countries. You know, so does half the owners in the NFL. And yet you still have them kind of shuffling their feet and looking down and hoping that this thing will go away if they allow the players to do these things, and if they lift every voice and sing the Negro National Anthem before every game. That's not enough. That's not what they're going for. And I believe that in order to get significant attention and in order to get past the gestures, it does have to be a shut it down kind of scenario. There has to be a strike like the NBA did. That strike was very powerful, and it got some legislators back in office. Now, granted, they didn't do anything, but at least they flexed enough muscle to get the Wisconsin State Legislature to come back in and at least recognize one of the players' demands. And I think until that happens, the NFL is not going to be anywhere near on the same footing as the NBA. And I think that it's going to take much more than a rhyming video, although that's a key and significant start to giving the NFL some feedback about their gestures.
Amisha.
Well, we've seen window dressing and we've seen a lot of symbolism from the NFL. And I think that historically speaking, that is what they do. They check off a box to say, okay, it's essentially patting the Negroes on the head and saying, okay, well, we did something, which is a lot to a whole lot of nothing. So I definitely think that this team speaking out and, talking about things in the grander scheme, because what we see with a lot of these arguments is that the mainstream media happens to drill everything down to George Floyd protests. What they fail to recognize is that people in the streets following George Floyd's death were there for a litany of reasons, not only police brutality, but also the crimes that we see in our criminal justice system. Also the moves for, the lower funding for Black students in Black communities. Also the housing crisis. There were a lot of issues that are particular to the subjugation of African Americans that were brought to the forefront and on a national stage due to those protests that occurred across the nation, but also globally in response to what we saw. I think that having these players step out and say that symbolism is not enough. These are the issues. These are the things that you need to be working on. When are we going to get to that stage and forcing their hand? Because they are extremely powerful. And I think that players coming together and understanding that their voice matters and saying that we're not going to, this says a lot about them, that they are refusing to step out, refusing to take that moment to honor and say the pledge and do those things that, are typical song and dance for an America that has continually over and over again acted as though African Americans were not a part of it and did not honor our rights. And I think that at this point, you see players who are taking hold of their power and are forcing the hand of leadership and saying that you are actually going to have to do something. Symbolism is not enough. We're beyond that point, and that we're not going to stay quiet and we're not going to accept these little symbols and be quiet and sit down. And I think that that's a very smart thing for them to do, especially considering the NFL is predominantly African American male, and it is high time again that they start paying close attention to what's happening in these communities. And these players, Black and the white ones in that video as well, are showing that they're not going to stop. This is something that they really want taken seriously, and that leadership is going to have to pay attention.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park, in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding of services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.